Welcome to Breaking Barriers, where we're exploring African American history and today's social justice issues. Change starts with awareness, so listen and learn. I'm your host, Stephanie, and let's get started. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Breaking Barriers. I'm your host, Stephanie Cooper. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Breaking Barriers is a podcast about African American history and contemporary social justice issues. If this is not your first time, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy that you came back. Gosh. But yeah. Today we're gonna talk about environmental racism. If you don't know what that is, it's okay. I'm gonna explain once I get into the topic. But yeah, welcome back. Super excited, and let's get into it. Actually, before we get into it, let's just talk about my shirt. I am Black History. Yes, I am. And so are you. So remember that. I'm so happy to have this shirt. This is definitely my sister's yesterday, but I put it on when I was at her house and she said I could have it. Perfect. I knew exactly what I was wearing for my episode tomorrow. Yes. Anyways, let's get into the topic. So environmental racism. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. I'm gonna tell you right now, and we're gonna be on the same foot. Okay, so let's get into the topic, environmental racism. So environmental racism is the systematic practice of placing Black residents in close proximity to toxic waste facilities, hazardous waste facilities, or other environmental hazards. This has been going on for a very long time, but unfortunately, it's something that we still see today. So to begin, we're obviously seeing this start even in times of slavery. There were enslaved African Americans that were placed in even working and home locations that were hazardous, um, hazardous environments. Not a good place to work, not a good place to live. Plain and simple. Enslaved African Americans were placed in unsafe conditions, which include agricultural and industrial processes like toxic, hazardous, hazardous processes. Okay. Early urban planning also would place Black communities in close proximity to hazardous waste places that are prone to floods, and highly polluted areas. This is kind of where we all started, and kind of where we created that pattern of um, environmental marginalization. And obviously, we're going to continue to see it to this day, unfortunately. But yeah, so as we move through history, we get to the industrialization period. And this is kind of where we're starting to see redlining. If you don't know what that is, go check out one of my other videos. I believe it's labeled redlining and gentrification. This is kind of where I really go in depth to talk about it. I'm going to give you a little snippet of it right here and then kind of touch upon it, how it's affecting environmental racism. But if you want a full detail video, go check out the old video. I'll clip it onto this one so that you can go straight into it if you want to. But yeah. So this is where we're seeing redlining. Redlining is a practice that was done by the Federal Housing Administration. It started in the 1930s, which it confined Black residents in areas that were near industrial sites, places that are not safe to be breathing in, to just be living in, and just kind of consuming constantly as you're like just doing regular day-to-day things. So redlining in general was the systematic denial of loans for Black residents, and this was kind of confining them to only specific areas. If you look up redlining, you look at pictures, it will show you a map of like a odd shaped whatever it is, just some random shape with a red line around it of specific areas where they were going to be placing Black residents, where they would allow them to buy residency. Anything outside of that? No, not allowed. Was it racist? Yes. Is that something new? Are we surprised? No, personally, I'm not surprised, but it's unfortunate. But if you look at if you look at today's communities that were confined in redlining, 74%, 74% of those communities are located within a mile, a mile distance of a toxic waste facility. 74% of those communities are within a mile of a toxic waste facility. I hope that opens somebody's eyes because that's all I have to say about that. Anyways, moving forward, also in this time, this is post Great Migration. We're seeing urbanization, which is pushing Black workers into polluted industrial areas. Again, home, work, everywhere they're going, they're being placed in highly polluted areas, places that is not safe for you to just be breathing in and out. And then we move into the civil rights era, and we're seeing protests break out about the unequal exposure to sanitation and toxic waste. MLK is also in support of this. He is in support of the Memphis sanitation workers who underscored the link between racial and environmental justice. So, kind of tying those two things together, it is a little bit later where we kind of coined the term environmental racism, which I'm going to touch upon, but this is kind of where they're starting to link the two things together. So, when we get to the 1980s, Warren County, North Carolina, has protests against uh, PCB landfill, the birth of environmental justice movement. So this is kind of where it really does start to kind of burst out, and it's becoming more noticeable to other people like around the world. In 1987, the United Church of Christ does a study that finds out race is the most significant predictor in close proximity to environmental hazards and toxic waste facilities. Also, around this time, we meet a man named Benjamin Chavis. He coins the term for environmental racism. He links the environmental concerns that we are facing with civil rights, and he makes it a national concern. There's national attention now on it because of him, because he ties these two things together and shows how it is affecting the Black community. He still does this work to this day. He's true to this, not new to this, okay? So all of that kind of leads us to where we are now and how the Black community is currently affected by environmental racism. So let's kind of dive into that. First, I want to start with the health disparities. I don't know about y'all, but this one definitely affects me. I have asthma. Um, that is something that's extremely common in Black children. Um, they Black children are being hospitalized for asthmatic reasons at 5 times higher, and a death rate that is 10 times higher than white children, which is linked to air pollution. Like I said, I don't know about y'all, but I got asthma. I've had it my whole life. It's something that still affects me to this day. I don't really experience it as much now. I only use my inhaler when I need it, but it is something that did affect me a lot as a kid. Another health disparity that the Black community is facing due to environmental racism is cancer. Black Americans are 68% more likely to develop cancer due to air toxins than the white community. And this is due to being placed in close proximity to industrial toxic waste. This next one, if you don't know about this, then you live under a rock because this has been an ongoing problem for a long time. Water insecurity, specifically Flint, Michigan. Lead levels in the water are disproportionately affecting the city, predominantly the Black population. Children's blood lead levels have doubled. and that causes long-term cognitive and health impacts. This is not something that is a temporary problem. It is something that causes long-term health problems. This is something they are going to be living with for the rest of their life because they are living in an area that has water insecurity. Because it's something that has not been fixed, something that has not been dealt with. And it's been happening for years, a decade at this point, a full decade. And it's still an issue. And it's going to continue to cause long-term health effects for these people. Another area that we're seeing disproportionately affect the Black community is climate change. You don't believe in climate change, that's your business, that's your prerogative, but it's here and it's not going anywhere. So buckle up. Um, Nearly 70% of Black Americans live within 30 miles of a coal plant. 30 miles, which exposes them to high levels of pollution and contributes to climate vulnerabilities. This is something that they are breathing in the air. Toxic waste, things that are not supposed to be inhaled in the body, that is now contaminating them and leading to health issues, including cancer. Hurricane Katrina. I know y'all gonna think, well, it's a hurricane. It affected a lot of people. We can't really control where a hurricane occurs. Yes, understandable, but is caused disproportionate flooding in the Black community of New Orleans, which again exemplifies racial inequities in disaster preparedness and relief. On top of that, that most of these people have been placed in these neighborhoods. These Black residents have been placed in these neighborhoods due to environmental racism in our history. These are Black communities that have been Black communities for years, for decades. This is their home. This is where they've been placed. This is where they live. They're not leaving these environments because this is what they've known their whole life. But they were only placed there due to environmental racism. On top of the fact that they were not as prepared as they should have been because of racial inequities. The things that needed to be done to evacuate, to get people out, to get them in a safe place that they couldn't get out were not effectively done. And that caused extra concern as far as addressing the aftermath and addressing what could have been done, what wasn't done. How do we move forward from here after this disaster? Another really big one that I don't know if people really think about, but kind of affects a lot of different areas in people's lives is food deserts. A food desert is a geographic area where residents have limited access to healthy, nutritious, and affordable food. That last part is important. Yes, there are places where you can go and get stuff affordable, but it does not make it healthy. Doesn't mean it's nutritious for your body. Doesn't mean it's good for something for you. It's good for you to consume. Food deserts are often in Black neighborhoods. 20% of Black households live in a food desert. These are areas that are completely limited or very scarce, affordable options of food that is good for your body, things that have the nutritious value that you need, which exacerbates health disparities. So honestly, I'm gonna sit on this topic for a little while because this is something that I think is really important when it comes to environmental racism. It's something that people don't really think about. Um, Diabetes is very common in the Black community. People don't really think about why that is. People are just, oh well, you know, me being as a person in the Black community, I know that I make jokes all the time. Like I know myself, I have a sweet tooth. Something we talk about that's very common in the Black community. We always want something sweet after a meal. I am very Very guilty of that. I'm not gonna lie. But we don't really talk about that in the context of how it is affecting our body, how it is affecting our health. When you are constantly consuming things of, you know, poor nutritional value, lots of sugar, lots of sodium, um, you're generally consuming these because, they taste good, but also they are affordable. Those are the only things that are affordable. I know that I have a sweet tooth, but I do eat very healthy. Like, I meal prep. I make sure that I'm eating things that are good for my body. But it's expensive. Like, it's just me. And I be going to the grocery store spending 150, $200 because all I'm buying is fruits and vegetables, like meat that I need, and then like other healthy stuff. Like, it's expensive. So it's understandable why people are eating things that are not good for them because it's the only thing they can afford. It is so expensive to eat healthy, and people don't talk about that. The stores that are being placed in the Black community are filled with things that are affordable, that are unhealthy. And if they have healthy stuff in there, it's extremely unaffordable. It's not realistic to be trying to buy this stuff every 2 weeks, whenever how often you go to the grocery store. Like, it's expensive, it adds up very quick, like, and it's very hard to stay consistent with that when you can't afford it. So, constantly eating this junk food and things that we normally, probably grew up on eating, ramen noodles and like Little Debbie's, stuff like, that has a lot of sugar but tastes good, we enjoy it, but it's not good for you at all, at all. And I'm not saying that this is everybody, but this is me when I grew up. I was definitely eating stuff that I should not have been eating. Um, and I'm grateful to be in a place where I can afford healthy food because it's not cheap. Even when I go to the grocery store, I'd be frustrated, like, dang, I spent that much money, like, but not eating healthy leads to health disparities, diabetes, cancer, um, all these different illnesses that are extremely common in the Black community. Very, very common. And it's due to our diet and the way we take care of ourselves and all in the areas that we live in. Like, if we're living in polluted areas, like, these are things that are affecting our bodies and causing long-term issues. I have a professor um, at Howard who he lives in DC and he's working with a program. Well, I think he leads the program. I'm not really sure, but anyways, they're working to put grocery stores in food deserts, in areas that are have food deserts. So allowing them to have healthy food that is sustainable for their body, that is affordable, because people aren't really thinking about the fact that, it's I don't have access to go to an affordable grocery store. Like, it's too far, or, people don't have transportation. They use public transportation. They can't get there, or whatever it is. Like, there are many reasons as to why people can't get to other places that they need. It's too expensive to go there. And when you do get to even if you do have access to get to these stores, they're expensive. It's a lot of money, especially in our economy nowadays. Like, it's a lot. And yes, we need food, but sometimes it's easier to buy the cheap stuff even though it's not good for you because you need to eat. And that gives them access to eat something. So addressing food deserts, I think, is something that's a very high priority. I think focusing on addressing food deserts is one of the ways that we can address environmental racism. Okay, so I want to give you all the numbers. I know some people out there are numbers people, so we're gonna go there. Air quality. Black Americans are exposed to 38 more polluted air than white Americans, while contributing 23% less air pollution emissions, doing less damage but taking the brunt of the pain. Okay, cool. Toxic waste. Communities of color make up 56% of population near toxic waste, compared to only 30% of white communities. Almost double the amount. Almost double. If you know your math, that's almost double. Hurricane Katrina. I did talk about this a little bit, but we're gonna go back to it. We're gonna talk to numbers again. This is about the long lasting impact of Hurricane Katrina. Black residents comprise of 44% of the people affected by Hurricane Katrina, but face the slowest recovery rates, the slowest, due to systematic neglect and underfunded relief plans. The lack of effort due to systematic racism is what led to this. The slowest recovery rates, yet almost 50% of the people affected were people of the Black community. And yet they were the last to get the relief and help that they needed. Make it make sense, y'all. Okay. So we have infrastructural disparities. The Black community is 3 times more likely to be exposed to water shutoffs linked to poor infrastructure in predominantly Black areas. 3 times more likely is crazy. It's crazy. Okay. Cool. Now, since I gave y'all all the tea, let's talk about what we can do to pave the way forward, to make some change, to do something about it. Because that's what we're here for, to do something about it. Policy change. This is the first one. I'm a policy girl, love policy. So we're going to start there. Starting with enacting stricter environmental regulations and enforcing equitable land use and investing in renewable energy projects in marginalized communities. Specifically in marginalized communities, because this is where we're facing majority of the issues. Yes, it needs to be an overall change that is made, but to start with, let's start in the Black community. Okay, cool. Community advocacy. This is something that's very important. Your voice is always going to be a significant point in making change. If you never speak up, nothing's going to change because people don't realize there's a problem. But if you use your voice to be like, hey, yo, hey, look at me. Hey, we have a problem over here. Hello. People going to start paying attention. It's going to get to the point where if you just keep going and going and going and going, you're not going to give them a choice. They're going to have to listen. Whether they want to hear it or not, they're going to hear you out. They ain't got no choice. They can't ignore everybody. Someone's voice is going to get through. Plain and simple. So strengthening grassroots organizations that are addressing environmental racism, even at a local level, because that's where you're starting to make change. I am always going to push for change, but I promise you, you are never going to just step outside one day and make a worldwide change. I mean, you could. You definitely could. I don't doubt that. Like, let me not say never, because you definitely could. But we need to start at a local level. Start locally. Even if you just hop on the internet and you start talking to the people in your community, or you start, posting on TikTok and start, showing people who you are. That is a small step that you could take to then lead to bigger change. So starting locally is essential. Increase representation of Black voices in environmental racism and environmental policy change. We are the ones facing the biggest issue. And we have seen time and time again, if we are not a part of the change, it's not going to be made. Let me say it again for the people in the back. If we are not a part of the change, it is never going to be made. You are not going to find a group of people who are going to, a group of white people who are going to fight for this change as much as you need it. If it is not affecting them, they are not going to care. That is a very, very, very normal thing. If something is not affecting you, the chances of you caring, pretty slim. Plain and simple. That has nothing to do with race, color, ethnicity, anything. If it is not affecting you, chances are you're probably not bothering it because it's not affecting you. You don't see it as a problem. You don't even know that maybe change needs to be made because it's not a problem that is affecting you. Black voices need to be the staple of change. If it is something that is affecting our community, we need to be using our voices to make this change. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. There's nothing more to that. Our voices need to be heard. Okay. We need to be standing on business in 2025. Use that voice. You got it for a reason. Okay. Next, education and awareness. Highlight the intersection of race and environmental racism in media and schools. We know. I mean, I don't, not everywhere, but unfortunately, I live down south. And down south, they be playing about what they want to talk about in school, and they be trying to restrict us in social media too. At this point, um, so education and awareness, creating awareness around these problems, because not everyone knows these are issues. So talking about it on social media, in school, anywhere you go, talk about it. Make people aware, educate people, especially in schools. We need to be teaching young kids the issues that their community is facing. Plain and simple. Like I said, they don't like to talk about that down south. They're very particular about what they teach. They be teaching their side of the story and not the full side of the story. So whatever. Also promoting research on systematic causes of environmental racism. What has led us here? Why are we here? Why are we still here? Why have we not seen change? What is going on? Um, like I talked about in the beginning, redlining, gentrification, all these things are also factors of environmental racism, portions of what led us here. So doing research on that, promoting that research, making it known, again, using your voice, putting this information out there for people to learn, for people to hear about it. Even if you don't want to hear about it, we're going to tell you. It's going to be told. It may go in one ear and out the other, but you can't say I ain't say it. I put it out there. It's whether you're going to absorb it or not. But I'm going to put it out there regardless. Plain and simple. But yeah, these are the things that we could be doing to make this change. But it takes effort. It takes time. It takes for you to push for this change, to actually want to see a change. You need to take part in it. When something is wrong in your life, what are you doing? Actively working to make a change. Actively working to see the results that you want. Like when you go to the gym, you're going to the gym every day, you're using your discipline, you're being in there, doing the things you need to do. On top of that, you're also making sure that you're eating right. You're getting your protein intake. There are steps that go into getting your dream physique. Same for this. Same for any change that you want to see. Things need to be done in small steps, and it needs to be in different parts and different areas of your life that you are making these changes. Different things are contributing to the total change that you want to see, the end results. Using your voice, educating people, putting it out on social media, going to your local town halls and making a change and talking about the concerns that you were having. These are all things that are steps that are going into this big change that we want to make. So be a part of it. Use your voice. Educate yourself if you don't know so that you can be a part of the change. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Um, love y'all. Thank you so much for coming on. If you have questions or if there's anything else you want to talk about or if there's a topic that you want me to cover, please comment down below. Let me know. I love to get y'all's input. I love when y'all comment on my stuff. Even if you're commenting something that I don't like, I mean, you commented and you support regardless. You get my numbers up. So Thank you, Buki. Y'all have a great day. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.